I grew up in the heart of Austin, Texas, where the summers were long and the cicadas sang late into the night. Life here had always been relatively predictable. I was married to Richard, a successful accountant with a calm, steady presence. Together we had built what appeared to be a picture-perfect suburban life. Our home had a tidy front yard, a big oak tree that shaded the porch, and laughter that echoed through the hallways. But like most seemingly perfect lives, there were cracks beneath the surface. Cracks that weren't always visible to outsiders, but ones that slowly spread until they were impossible to ignore. Richard and I had been married for over 20 years. We had our son Adam when I was in my late 20s. Adam grew into a thoughtful young man, more interested in art and creativity than sports or business. While Richard sometimes worried about Adam's unconventional career choice, I always admired his determination. He enrolled at the University of Texas in Austin, majoring in fine arts, and from the very beginning, he poured himself into his work with a kind of intensity that made me proud. It was during his junior year that everything began to change. One afternoon, Adam called me from campus. His voice carried a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Mom," he said, "I need a model for my final art project. The theme is honesty through vulnerability. I can't think of anyone better than you." At first, I laughed. "Me? Adam, I'm not exactly model material." But he insisted. "That's the point. I don't want a professional. I want real. I want someone who means something to me." I agreed, mostly because I didn't want to let him down. I had no idea then how much that decision would change the direction of my life. The project begins. The day of the first session, Adam set up his art studio in the converted garage at our home. Large canvases leaned against the wall, the smell of acrylic paint filling the air. A single lamp cast warm light across the space. He gave me simple instructions. Just sit naturally. Be yourself. At first, it felt strange. I was hyper-aware of my posture, my expression, the way my hands rested in my lap. But as the minutes passed, I began to relax. Adam didn't talk much while he sketched, but every now and then, he'd smile at me with an intensity that felt different. Not inappropriate, just deeper, like he was really seeing me for the first time in years. It was startling. Richard, my husband, had grown distant over time. Our conversations had become about bills, schedules, and chores. Somewhere along the line, he had stopped looking at me with that same kind of focus. Sitting there in Adam's studio, I realized how much I missed being truly seen, and that was the beginning of my mistake. The unexpected attention. Over the following weeks, Adam and I spent hours together in that studio. He painted me in different moods, asked me questions about my life, my dreams, my regrets. Things Richard hadn't asked in years. "Mom," Adam said one evening, "you've got this light in your eyes when you talk about your childhood. I want to capture that. Tell me more about it." I found myself opening up in ways I hadn't expected. I told him about my teenage years, about the ambitions I once had before I settled into marriage and motherhood. He listened intently, brush moving across canvas, like every word mattered. But the more attention I received from Adam, the more distant Richard seemed. He barely noticed when I spent late evenings in the garage. When he did ask, I'd simply say, "It's for Adam's project." He'd nod, distracted, his eyes glued to his laptop or the evening news. I told myself it was innocent. After all, Adam was my son. But inside, I couldn't deny the feeling that something was wrong. Not between Adam and me, but between Richard and me. The discovery. The turning point came one Thursday night. Richard had left his phone on the kitchen counter. I wasn't the type to snoop, but a notification caught my eye. It was from a woman I didn't recognize. The message was simple: "See you tomorrow night. Same place." My heart sank. I opened the thread and scrolled through. The truth hit me like a freight train. Richard was having an affair. The messages stretched back months. Dinners. Hotel rooms. Secret plans. I felt my chest tighten as tears blurred my vision. I had spent years wondering why Richard seemed so detached, and now I had my answer. He had already left me emotionally, long before I even noticed. The next day, I couldn't bring myself to sit for Adam's session. He noticed immediately. Mom, what's wrong? I tried to brush it off, but the dam broke. I told him everything. Adam set down his brush and walked over to me, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. You don't deserve this, he said quietly. You've given him everything. I broke down sobbing while Adam hugged me. It was the kind of embrace that reminded me of when he was little, when I was his safe place. But this time he was mine. The confrontation. That weekend, I confronted Richard. I laid out the evidence on the kitchen table, the messages, the lies. He didn't deny it. Instead, he just looked at me with cold resignation. I didn't think you'd ever find out, he said. We've been drifting apart for years. His words cut deeper than the betrayal itself. He spoke as though the life we had built, the family we had created, was nothing but a burden he was finally free of. The conversation ended with him packing a bag and leaving. Just like that, 20 years of marriage dissolved into silence. Healing through art. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I felt broken, discarded, and invisible. But Adam refused to let me drown in sorrow. He pushed me to keep modeling, even when I didn't want to. Mom, he told me, this isn't just about my project anymore. This is about you reclaiming yourself. And so I sat day after day while he painted. He captured my grief, my resilience, my transformation. Slowly, I began to see myself through his eyes, not as a victim, but as a woman who had survived betrayal and was still standing. By the time his final exhibition rolled around, I hardly recognized myself. His paintings of me lined the gallery walls, one with tears streaming down my face, another with quiet strength in my posture, and one where I was smiling, radiant, free. When people asked who the model was, Adam proudly said, "That's my mom, the strongest person I know." A new beginning. Richard's departure, painful as it was, became the catalyst for my rebirth. I took time to rediscover passions I had long buried: photography, writing, even volunteering at the local community center. The art project that began as a simple favor to my son turned into a journey of self-discovery. I had walked into Adam's studio thinking I was just helping him with an assignment. I walked out realizing I had been helping myself all along. I never expected betrayal. I never expected heartbreak. But most of all, I never expected that my son's art would give me the strength to rebuild my life. And in the end, that's exactly what it did.